Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today is Daf Yud Gimel. We start from the Mishnah, Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis. Zugelig Mishnah. Ish yesh b'avodas kechavim v'hoy bechanuyas mu'utaras she'einu mutaras. You have a city that celebrates a festival for Avodah Zarah, and they have some shops that are mu'utaras, they're decorated, which means that they serve Avodah Zarah and they collect a tax for the Avodah Zarah, for the avodas kechavim. And she'einu mutaras, some are not decorated with the different decorations, which means they don't serve Avodah Zarah. So the halacha is like this. The halacha is Zeh Beis Sha'an. There's a story with Beis Sha'an where it's a city in Eretz Yisrael, Bisman Mishnah, where they had goyim live there, and some shops were decorated, which meant that they served Avodah Zarah. Some shops weren't. That the ones that are mu'utaros are asuros, and the ones that are not mu'utaros, they're not decorated, are mutter to do business over there. You're not allowed to do business. Certainly not on the day of the festival. So what does it mean that it's mutter to do business? So Rashi says that means that when it says you're not allowed to do business, what that means that you're not allowed to sell anything to them. To be the seller, that you're not allowed, because you sell them a behemoth, they might use it for Avodah Zarah, shechter for Avodah Zarah, you sell them any other merchandise, they'll be happy with the profit or with the item that they made, that they bought, and then they'll thank their Avodah Zarah. But buying from them, that's mutter. Buying is okay. You buy an animal. Okay, so you buy an animal, right? They're not going to do anything with the money that there's a chashash they're going to use it for Avodah Zarah. And also, Rashi brings a svara that stam moicher etzavu, that any seller usually is not happy to get rid of his stuff, especially if it's davar meskayim, something that he can hold on to, right? Selling a car, selling a house, selling anything that is durable. Usually people don't want to get rid of that stuff. So if he sells it, he's not so happy, he's not going to thank the Avodah Zarah. That's why if it's einun mu'utaris, if it's not decorated, right, then you're allowed to buy from them. You can never sell to them, but you're allowed to buy from them if it's not mu'utaris. Okay, so when do we say that if it's decorated, you're not allowed to do business there? That's only if it's decorated b'vered v'hodas, the kamasani merecha, because they have enough from the smell. But if it's decorated with just fruits, mutaris, then it's mutar. Nanu the osir, you're not allowed to benefit from it. So by vered v'hodas, what's the chashash? Rashi explains that these vrodim and hadassim, these roses and myrtle branches, they were probably used for Avodah Zarah, and if they're probably used for Avodah Zarah, then you can't have enough from takroivis Avodah Zarah. It's a pasuk liyidbag b'yad chamum v'nacherim. So the problem with mutaris is not so much that they're taxed and your money's going to go to Avodah Zarah. It's pashut because whatever they're decorating their store with is usually used for Avodah Zarah, and it's considered takroivis avodas kechavim. And there's a issa liyibag b'yad chamum. Nanu the aser, you're only not allowed to benefit. Avul mahana. But mahana, that's different, meaning you're giving them benefit, that we don't find that it's aser. And mamela, that's why it's mutter. So even if it's mutaris b'peiros, it's also aser. Why? It's kavachomer. If you're not allowed to benefit from them, certainly you're not allowed to be mahana them. Rabbi Nosson Oimer, Yom Shabbat is called Menachas Besameches, Machuz Va'oimrin, the day that avodas kechavim pater the buyers from the marketplace, from taxes. They say, call me shenot la Torah. Anyone who takes, I guess in front of the Avodah Zarah, there were wreaths, there were flowers, and besamim. And they said, anybody who takes from this Avodah Zarah, the pracham and besamim, v'ayniach b'roisha, and you wear it on your head, b'roish chamoiroi, or you put it on your donkey's head, the chaved avodas kechavim, to celebrate with us the festival for this avodas kechavim, yinichu lesamechas. Then, no problem, no more taxes for you. V'mlav, al yinichu samechas. Then, if not, you're going to have to pay taxes. Yehudish nimtzah mayasa. What about a Jew? What should a Jew do? Yaniach. If he puts down the Yatorah, Nimtza Nana, then he's Nana from what? From the Reyach, of the Prochem, and the Besamim. And it's also Bano, Lo Yaniach. If he doesn't put it on, Nimtza Mahana. Why? Because now he's going to have to pay taxes. He's Mahana Avodah Zarah. Yeah? If you take a buy, right, then you have to uproot the usage of the behema. We'll talk about that in a moment, what that means. Peiros, ksus, kalim, yirakvu, let it rot. Whatever you buy, whether it's peiros, fruits, ksus, clothing, kalim, and vessels for usage, then you have to let it rot. You have to be calculate. Moyes, uklei matches. What about money that you got from selling items to the goyim, uklei matches, or metal pots? You lichem yamamelech, then you throw it into the yamamelech. The ezo ikur, and what is it called ikur? What does it mean behemoth te'akir? Which means you take out the tendons from the bottom of its foot, so this way it puts it out of service and you can't have enough from it. It says that even if you don't take the prochim and put it on your head, on the donkey's head, it's a problem. Why? Because now you're going to pay the taxes, you're mahana Avodah Zarah. So it's a kasha on Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says mahana is okay. Here the Bryce says mahana is osir, right? This Yisrael is in a predicament. You can't just not put the besamim or the prochim onto the behema. Why? Because, or himself, or in his habit. Why not? Because then he's going to have to pay taxes. He's being mahana about his chacham. It's a problem. According to Rish Lakish, it's not a problem. Mahana is no problem. Shlokish holds that it's a machlokes tanoim. The amri karabonon the pligalei. This is Shitas Rabbi Nosson. The Bryce Rabbi Nosson Oimer. Rabbanon argue on it. Rabbanon say it's really not a problem. Mahana means don't put on the wreath, don't put on the flowers on your head or in the head of your donkey, and then you'll pay taxes. No problem paying taxes because Mahana is mutter. Where it says Rabbi Yochanan Savar, Rabbi Yochanan says loy pligi. Rabbi Yochanan says no, it's not a machlokes b'chlal. So Rabbi Yochanan holds Mahana is a problem because there's no such opinion according to Rabbi Yochanan that says Mahana is not an issue. Whereas the V'loi Pligi, is it true that the Chachamim not Cholik Rabbi Nosson? But Tanya, it's a brisa. Hochanli rich like the Chachamim V'loikchen mehem beim avodah shachas batam zeh tzachramim because mal b'koshul, and you're allowed to go to the marketplace of Avodah Zarah. Yeah, of Evdi Chachamim, and you're allowed to buy from them whatever you want. Behem avodah shachas batam zeh tzachramim, and you write shtaris raya. Right, even if it's in a secular court, make sure you have proof. Why? Because now you're allowed to, right? Agam, if you go to a secular court, the judges are going to be happy. People are going to be happy. Look, a Jew comes to the secular court, they're going to be moidel of it. We're not afraid of that. Why? Because we allow you to do it, because through that proof, you save your money. And if you use a kohen, you can even go out into Chutz La'aretz and Chacham or Megoizer al Thomas Eretz Amim, Lodun or La'arer Imohem, to be done and to make sure that you can be matzah whatever property you have, whatever funds you have over there. So they're allowed you to be over Isid Rabbanan to save your money. Also in the Beis HaKvaros, which means the Gemara thought the regular Beis HaKvaros, which is the Raisa. Tumas Eretz Amim is the Rabbanon. So I understand why the Chachamim allowed you to go into Eretz Amim to save your money. Basic verse Lakadaitech, Tumah Deraisi, it's Tumah Deraisa. Elo Beis HaPras, it means Beis HaPras, which means that you undug a sada and you found one skeleton there, you found one mace. Now it's the Rabbanon Rechoshes, the entire Beis HaPras might have a mason, so it's not Minat Torah, it's only with the Rabbanon, and that Chachamim are matter to go into Beis HaPras if you have to save your money. Mar says, the Bryce is mamshech that even if you have to go to learn Torah and Chutz La'aretz, Velisa Isha, or to get married, you're also allowed to go and be matam yourself. Chutz La'aretz Tumas Eretz Amim. That's only if you don't find a place or a Rebbe that can teach you Torah in the way that you have in Chutz La'aretz. But if you can find it in Eretz Yisrael, you're not allowed to go. No. Even if you can find a good Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, but if you find a better Rebbe, a Rebbe that you can connect with, soul connection, then Avad, you should go there. Rabbi Yosi said, that if you have the best Rebbe in the world, go to the other place. You can be Tam of Eretz Amim, even if you have a good Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, best Rebbe go to Chutz La'aretz. Alma Pligi, so you see from over here, from the Reisha, this Brisa, it says that the Chachamim are cholik, and they say you could buy a behem avodah meshvachas batam satzakramim from oivda avodas kechavim, even if there's a chashash that they're going to be moida la avodah zara. So it's a avodah the cholik on Rabbi Nosson. Rabbi Nosson earlier said you're not allowed to because nimtza mahana, and here his man is buying from this marketplace of the kechavim. So how could it be mutter? Teretz is chachamim arguing Rabbi Nosson. How could Rabbi Yochanan say there's no machlekes? No, really I tell us no machlekes. V'lei kasha. Kan b'lei keyach min atagar the shakli mixi. V'kan b'lekechem b'alabayis lo shakla michsemenei. Depends who you buy it from. The Chachamim, the second Brisa says it's mutter because there's no meches. They don't take taxes. So Mela, you're not being mahana. Rav Nosson is talking about when you take taxes. So Mela, Rabbi Yochanan says you don't find the Chachamim arguing Rav Nosson because that could even shtim, that could even fit with Rav Nosson because over there's no taxes because you're buying it from Balabais. How are you allowed to be over an Issa Deiraisa of Tzar B'Lachayim? Because a knas that the Chachamim counted you for buying from Avodah Zarah. Omer Abaye, Omer Rachmana, Asosayim Ta'aker. Hashem said to Yeshua, make sure to put their horses out of service. And how do you do it? You basically tear out the tendon in the bottom of their foot and you put them out of usage. It's Tzar B'Lachayim. Teretz is, no, it's okay because that was the tzivoy. Tosfos already asks, what do you mean? It's not a right from Yeshua because it could be that's al pi adibur hava. V'der Hashem said to him, maybe it's an exception to the rule. But avada, to go and implement a knas derabanan and violate the iser deraisa of tzar b'lachayim, you don't have a right from there. Right? Ein koich beichem laker davon atayris. So Tosfos says, v'yesh lo medavada yesh koich biyodam laker. Heichad ninur tam k'tzas laker. When the Chachamim felt there was a need, even if it's bekum v'asei, they're also allowed to be oiker. Okay. Omer Mar, Eze ikur menashe per se v'narkuv l'mata. What is ikur? You tear out the tendon on the bottom of the foot. You're not allowed to be magdish an animal, or say erkoi shall pleni olai, the parsha of Eruchen, or Chayrim is also part of Hegdish. Why? Because you can't do anything with it. Why? If you're going to be magdish it, you can put in Chayrim, which is also Lashon Hegdish, then people might violate this animal and be over in the Isra Me'ilah. That you have to Yirakvu Mosik Limatchas Lichli Amelech Ve'eze Iker Noel Delos Befenev Yimesam Elel. So over here, you got to put it all out of usage. If you magdish it, Bizmanazeh, we're afraid that people are going to be moil behektish because there's no Beis HaMikdash. So you have to really get rid of it. Either get rid of it, behema and te'aker. What does te'aker mean? You lock it into a barn and you let it die. Barav. So how could you say ikur in our sugya? If you buy from a goy and you violate the Kanas Chachamim not to buy on a festival of Avodah Zarah, ikur is you uproot the tendon from the bottom of its foot. Here by ikur, by hektish, bismanazeh, ikur means that you noel dels b'fanev yimesam e'olel. Right? You have to lock it and thank you, Rashai. You have to lock it and dies. But there is different because bezoin kachim. We don't allow you to be pageya on kachim, to really harm kachim like that. So since it's kachim, it's a bezoin. We rather starve on its own. Do a passive akira rather than an active akira. Gemara says v'nishchet and mishchet. Shecht it. It's no bezoin and shchita, right? A lot of shecht. Shechting is normal. And it's going to die right away. If you shecht it, you might eat it. And it's hektish. Just cut it into two, make it into an avela. You can't make it into an avela because the iser that whatever you should do to Avodah Zarah, you can't do to hektish. And when it tats them is b'choisam, and the rest of the pasuk talks about they should kill their animals as well in such a way. So you're not allowed to kill hektish in the same way you're commanded to kill Avodah Zarah because that's l'sas and came l'shem l'keichem. Rava said, the reason why by behemoth hekdesh you're not allowed to uproot the tendon is because it looks like you're putting a mum into kachim. The Gemara says, Nira? Mum malyu? What do you mean Nira? It's mamash a mum. Because how do you know? Really, matal mim b'kachim is a deiraisa. That's only, right? Tomim yil rotzen kol mum la'yah boy. It's a pasuk. That's only was mashmei l'shkayim. The chazla krava. You could otherwise bring it as a carbon. So there, it's issa deiraisa to disqualify it from a carbon by putting a mum in it. But nowadays, anyone's not chazla krava, right? It's like there's no Beis HaMikdash. So maybe there's no issue. Mar says there's still an issue. Let it be like you put a mum into a balmum, so that balmum you can never bring to the mizbeach, right? Even because it's balmum. So if you put a mum into a balmum and a Beis HaMikdash, that's issur deraisa. Even though it's not chazla krava, so this is no worse. No Beis HaMikdash. Putting a mum, even though it's not lechazla krava, even though it's lechazla krava, it should be aser. What is the balmum? Need lechazla gafei l'dami chazi. Times of Hamikdash, even though the balmum wasn't chazi itself, it wasn't worthy. You couldn't bring it onto the mizbeach, but you could have been paid it, and you could have used the money to buy another animal and be makriv it. La fuka hacha But nowadays, you can't do anything with it. Not with the gufa behema, because the gufa behema is no mizbeach, and not for the value of it, even if you sell it, because no mizbeach. So mele here, it's only a drabanan. So the Gemara Ashkar Rabbi Yoel Gold the Kai Pischa the Tsar. Oh, Amar Lei Ktari behema to Akar Eved Mai. Rabbi Yoel met Rabbi Loi on the gate, by the gates of Tsar. He says, what about Eved? Behema, if you buy Behema, and you violate the Issa Tekanos Chachama by Behema, so you understand. Te'akar, right? So you have to uproot the tendon and disqualified, make sure it's out of service. What about an Eved? Eved Yisrael like a Mabayah because it's a mitzvah. Right? Eved Yisrael, you buy an Eved Yisrael from a goy, Pashit, you're allowed to. Kikam Mabayah, Eved Eved Kachavim Mai. What about an Eved Eved Kachavim? Amalei Maikam Mabayah, what's the Shaila? Tanya, we'll let them before Shabraiso. Eved Kachavim Ve'roy Be'madaka, Lemalo Lemeridin. Right? Anyone who is a roya behemedaka has to be suspicious of gezel. Why? Because they take these behemoths dakas, right? These goats and sheep, they roam freely into other people's fields and they steal. So Mamela, if these people who do it, these shepherds, they fall into a pit, you don't have to save them. It says they're not re'echa. You could just let them die passively. Also, you don't push them in actively. But what do you see from here? That even a goy, you're not allowed to kill. You're not allowed. Passively, you're allowed to, but te'oker, now you're not allowed to. It says in the Brisa you could buy a behema avodah meshvachas Eved Yisrael, a dilma fil Eved Yisrael. So is it dafka a goy or a yid also in that behema? When we're talking about you're buying, right? We established earlier is that. Actually, that's talking about balabayas. I guess Rabbi Yirmiyah holds no. This is talking about even a vendor. You're not allowed to buy from him, and he wants to know what kind of avodim are you allowed to buy. Is it Eved Yisrael it's a mitzvah, or even Eved Kachavim? Amalei Mistaber Eved Yisrael. The Eved Kachavim Malamai Mabayla. What's the mitzvah Eved Kachavim? Even Eved because any Eved Kanani becomes a partial Jew, right? It has to go through Geirus, it becomes Mechuyev mitzvahs Keisha, so therefore it's a mitzvah that he's Machnis Tachas Kan Feshchina. What about a Behema? Right? Behema's on that list. What are you going to tell me Tachas Kan Feshchina? Because he's minimizing the stock of the goyim of the Oid Eved Yisrael. Now they have one less behema, so they have one less Eved as well. Rabbi Yaakov's on sandal, Rabbi Yirmiyah's van pita. He bought a sandal and he bought bread from a goy. Tosfos already says, "What do we pas akum?" You're not allowed to buy pas akum. Tosfos says that he bought it for his behemoths. He didn't buy it for himself. Another teretz was that there was no palter Yisrael, so that was mutter. But either way, Omer lechad lechavrei yasma. Yasma means you're an orphan, which means Rashi says beloy das. You did it without any awareness. Didn't you know Avodah Zarah? You think your Rebbe would have done this? Yasma, you're missing awareness, right? Avodah Zarah, your Rebbe would have done this. But the truth is, nobody did anything wrong. They bought from Balabayas. And from Balabayas, if you buy from Balabayas, there's no tax on that. Each one thought that he bought it from a tagar, from a guy who is a vendor. The Omer of Abba, Bered Rechiber Abba Rabbi Yochanan, the Shonal, the Kechman Ataga, the Shakal Michsa Menei, Avl Gebel Bais, the Shakal Menei Muchsa Mutter. But if it's not from a Tagar, so Alabais it's Mutter. Omer of Abba, Bered Rechiber Abba, Lamole Rabbi Yochanan Zimna, if Rabbi Yochanan would have been alive today, but Asad the Shakal Michsa Filim Balabais Abba Osir. He would have asked it even from Balabais, Elina Echazavah, so how would they able to buy from Balabais? Even Mizman Azetz, Osir Likens from Balabais. Balabais She'enu Kavua Zavon. He bought it from Balabais She'enu Kavua, which means that he's just passing through the city where they serve Avodah Zarah, so for sure there's no taxes on him. The tax collectors don't think of collecting taxes from a guy who's just passing by, and therefore it's okay. Neither of them did anything wrong, they just accused each other of doing something wrong. But be'emes, they didn't do anything wrong. We'll stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow with Daf Yomi, starting from the mission over here.